Marhaba, and welcome to the Matrix Green Pill, where real people connect.
Hello, and welcome back to the Matrix Green Pill podcast. My name is Shireen Zemo, and for today's podcast, I'm excited to introduce Leila Rezaiguia. Leila is a Dubai-based executive coach and the co-founder of Kompass Consultancy, which is a coaching agency that enables performance excellence. While she does focus on coaching female teams across the Middle East, she's also super passionate about practicing and advocating for self-care, bringing playfulness and creativity into her coaching sessions. So without any further ado, let's hear from Leila. Leila, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Shireen. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. So Leila, I know I gave a very short brief about you and your experience, but it would be great for the audience to get to know you better. So if you don't mind sharing a bit more on your background and how you got into this field.
Sure. First, I'm going to start with saying Ramadan Kareem to you and to all the listeners. I hope Ramadan is going well for those who are listening in the region. And how did I get into this? A long time ago, I think the catalyst for me is I've always been passionate about people and about developing people and mainly developing people's careers and leadership. And that's how I started actually in HR, in learning and development and talent management. So my career spanned alongside different industries. So I started in oil and gas and then government and then financial services. This is where I started my career when I was in-house coaching and in-house mentoring and leading development programs and career development programs and leadership development programs. I'm originally Algerian. So I worked in Algeria, the UK, and then the UAE. And then 10 years ago, actually, this year is a big milestone for me and for us as Kompass is we're turning 10. So it's a 10th anniversary since I left actually my last corporate job as head of talent management in National Bank of Abu Dhabi, for those of you who remember, before it became FAB. And then that's when I then embarked on setting up a coaching company with Gaj, my business partner. And we've been now running this business for the last 10 years in the region. We're headquartered in Dubai and Abu Dhabi as well. And we run the business globally. So my passion is really developing people, coaching leaders. And I'm really, as you said in your bio, I'm really passionate about developing female leaders, especially in our region. And also another thing that I'm super passionate about, and that's my other business, the partner of a UK executive coaching training school. So I'm the partner in the region, which means I run all the ICF accredited coaching training programs in the region, both as a public program and in-house for organizations who want to build coaching cultures by developing their managers, their leaders, and also creating a pool of accredited executive coaching to coach employees. So you'll see me coaching every day. If I'm not coaching one-to-one, I'm coaching teams. If not, I'm training coaches or I'm mentor coaching coaches or I'm supervising coaches. That's what I do. And my passion is to bring in actually nature, its wisdom and creativity and playfulness into everything that I do. So I hope this gives you an idea in a nutshell about who I am and what I do.
That was a very great run through your experience and everything that you are passionate about. And I guess that kind of leads me to my next question, continuing on about your experience. And since you do primarily focus on coaching female teams, what are some of the biggest challenges that you found that women face in the workplace when it comes to fostering a positive culture?
Just to clarify also, I don't only focus on coaching female teams. That's my passion. So I do coach a lot of females. I don't want our male counterparts to feel excluded because I do work heavily with mixed leadership teams. But my passion is really developing female leaders because of so many reasons. And one of the challenges that I see my female leaders that I work with, be it one-to-one or teams, are facing is imposter syndrome. And that is regardless. I focus on coaching C-suite. So I work with senior people, women on boards, women having CEOs position or chief positions. And I'm seeing more and more the imposter syndrome that is actually hijacking their career growth and their progression.
Do you think you could elaborate for some that might not know what exactly is imposter syndrome or what entails?
Absolutely. So imposter syndrome is as simple as doubting yourself. And lots of people use fake it to make it kind of analogy, which I personally disagree with, because people are not stupid. When you're faking it, people will feel that you're faking it, unless you're a super great actor or actress. But in that case, you're not being authentic. In a nutshell, that's what I mean by imposter syndrome. It's like they feel like the position they're in, they're not mastering everything, but somehow they made it. So they have to put all their effort and energy into really focusing on a lot of negative energy, I would say, to just maintain that perception and that brand and that idea about themselves, which is full of uncertainty and full of doubts and full of actually not feeling that they're worthy and that they deserve that position. And that is with women that I'm coaching. But funny enough, not just with women, I'm seeing more and more the imposter syndrome with the men leaders that I'm also coaching. And I'm seeing more of that since COVID started. So I'm really, really curious about this trend because I've seen it really heightened in the last 3 years. The work that I do is really to help people reconnect with who they truly are. And that's my passion in life. That's what I inspire people to really reconnect with their human side, which they tend to forget when they get to these positions. They forgot that they're human beings before they wearing that leadership badge on. And I'm actually speaking at one of the top business schools that we work with. In 2 weeks, I'm having a panel discussion with global peers around imposter syndrome as well. So you can see that it's really taken a toll on many leaders around the world.
Wow. I do wonder what exactly it could be. Like, what's the science behind or the psychology behind why specifically post-COVID that this is happening more? So that's very interesting. Would you say that this has caused possibly leaders to struggle a bit with the workplace culture and being inclusive? Or how do you think that they could encourage a more inclusive workplace culture, especially when it comes to addressing unconscious bias or discrimination, things like that?
Yeah, that's, I love the question. And one of the things that certainly I've seen has a huge negative impact when we're talking about imposter syndrome and these workplace cultures. And lots of them are claiming diversity and inclusion and inclusive workplace. But to be honest with you, that's not what I'm seeing in reality. Like a very small handful number of organizations are really striving to creating this. I'm seeing quite the opposite. And that's actually the disappointing part of seeing all these organizations claiming this inclusion, and 8th of March being the International Women's Day. So I see lots of false advertisement, I would say, and false branding. One of the things that I'm seeing as a negative impact is lack of self-care. And that's what I'm really, really passionate about, because these leaders, because they have to prove that they are really worthy of these positions. Lots of them have families. Some of them have no families, which means that they dedicate their whole life to work, which is actually not healthy, as we all know. And what happens is lots of them are suffering with health issues. And I've been there myself in my career. I can really empathize with this when I see the symptoms and when I see this. So I help my clients bring more awareness into their body wisdom, because I'm also a somatic coach. I work with my clients with their bodies and feelings and sensations and not just the brain. And definitely I'm seeing a big increase of, and that's why everybody's talking about well-being. And that's another thing. There's a difference between talking about well-being and really creating an environment which is healthy, that strives to people balancing their well-being, having that clarity of when I actually can afford to leave early or working from home. So there are so many things that we're seeing organization claiming, but in reality, it's not happening, which is then impacting the mental well-being and physical and emotional well-being, which then impacts performance. And then people are, they're just dragging their feet. They no longer want to go to the office, or they just not enjoying the workplace. And in fact, I've got lots of women in my network, lots of my friends and friends of friends who are very senior people who are just thinking of leaving, or some of them are in transition, or some of them left already. So lots of my clients in that position left this position because they no longer want that stress after everything they've been striving for. It's a shame actually seeing this.
I think that was probably one of the main causes for people wanting to quiet quit. And that was quite a big thing just not too long ago. And it's funny that you also brought up 8th of March, International Women's Day, and the false advertising, as you called it, because I remember just speaking to my colleagues about this. It is very upsetting, obviously, as a working woman, to see how women are paraded at the front only on that day. But then every other day, it's just men plastered all over all the senior positions and everywhere else as spokespeople, and anything that kind of puts a light on the company is usually focused on men. So that is quite disappointing. And I think it can be quite demotivating for a lot of women that are in the different industries striving to get into a leadership role. And I guess the focus of this year's International Women's Day was about equity. And I think that there was a lot of misconception on the difference between equality and equity. So that was really also interesting to see. What are your takes on that?
I tell you, one of the things, as you were elaborating the question, I feel sorry for the young female leaders who are in their early career stage or actually mid-management. I really do feel sorry for them. The reason being is there are no successful female leaders who are wholehearted, who are passionate about what they do, and who are actually making a huge difference in corporate environments, because lots of these women are leaving, and lots of them left, which means we're going back to senior leaderships and boardrooms full of men leaders. And I have nothing against men leaders. I just want to make this clear, but I strive for helping women claim their voice and have a seat at the table. We're seeing less and less. In the last 2 or 3 years, we're seeing way less women, female leaders. And I'm not talking about female middle management. I'm talking about senior leadership and board positions. We're hardly seeing any numbers, although we know that in the UAE, and the 30% club claiming for having percentages of women, we're way far from the reality. So I feel sorry for these young female leaders because they have no mentors, no female mentors that will actually show them the rope and show them how to be successful in today's environment, because these women are simply leaving. So who are they left with? We keep talking about diversity and inclusion and unconscious bias. These are all buzzwords unless you show me. I help organizations to build coaching cultures. When you're seeing that, coaching is not part of your job, but it's a nice thing to have, so we need you to focus on this. I see lots of words being used and lots of dogma. But when it comes to reality, that's not really what is happening behind the scenes. With all the buzz that we've seen working from home, and we all bought desks. Well, I've had a home office way before. I've had my home office actually since I launched my business 10 years ago. But we've seen the buzz with everybody working from home and working around the clock. And now everybody is forced to be back to the office. That's just another simple example. Very few organizations are really sticking to 3 days in the office, 2 days from home, or vice versa. Almost everybody. And that's a global trend. I'm seeing this because I coach clients globally and I've got friends around the world and colleagues, and everybody's forced to go back to the office.
Do you think that affects everyone in a certain way to have to go back to office after getting used to working in a hybrid mode?
Absolutely. And I know lots of friends or who are just simply saying, I simply will not go back full time because this is simply, my life the last 3 years has been so different. So I no longer want to go back full time to the office. And which led some people to leave in the organization, which means organizational cultures are not striving, and the policy makers, and that could be HR or could be the CEO, it's a joint decision anyway, could be the board. The policies, unfortunately, are not. And with the world of AI and chat GPT and all these buzzwords, everything that we're hearing and everything that we're seeing on the ground is actually conflicting. People using lots of buzzwords when it comes to reality of HR policies and HR procedures. They're not really striving to helping and promoting a well-being culture. A lot has to change when it comes to policy making. Lots of organizations talk about flexibility. In fact, I'm seeing very few flexible policies that my clients are sharing, or I know organizations I'm working with. So it feels like we walk going backwards, if I may call it this way, and we're miles away from having a holistic approach in organizations.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely very disappointing because during the whole hybrid work era with COVID and not really post-COVID, but post-lockdown, I guess, it was everyone was very hopeful that this would be implemented by organizations, that this is the future and everybody could see that. But it's very disappointing to see that people are being forced to go into work full-time, or I don't really know what the different organizations are doing. Like you said, maybe just 1 day or so to work from home, and how that can affect people. And you did mention also self-care was something that you were very passionate about. So I want to just dive into that, kind of rolling off of this topic. How would you say you incorporate that, or how do you bring that to the table, that this is something that's important? How do you bring that to your clients? I'd love to hear more.
one of the first thing to me when I learned about self-care the hard way. As I said, I've had lots of health issues when I was working in corporate environments because simply I was not tuned into my body, as simple as this. And self-care for me meant every now and then I'll take a holiday, I'll go by the beach and lie down on a sun lounger. Little did I know that self-care goes way beyond laying down on a sun lounger in Thailand, but it's actually a daily practice. So I've been diving heavily into understanding what self-care means and for individuals and for teams and organizations. So it's not just a fluffy word or a buzzword, but I do bring in this into the workplace when I'm coaching leaders, when I'm building coaching cultures with organizations, when I'm actually helping them to develop that awareness of the importance of self-care. Because the first thing that my clients, I've got a family and I've got kids and it feels like, I'm going to be seen as selfish. Well, actually, it is mandatory to be selfish when we're thinking about our own self-care. You can't give to people what you don't have. If you're not taking care of yourself, who's going to take care of you? Nobody, because we have this body that we live in for now. And if you're not taking care of this body, then guess what? The body's not going to take care of you. And that's where we see in all these illnesses and all these, unfortunately, dis-ease when people are just not in their bodies. I coach people who are completely disconnected. The body, when I bring awareness to the body wisdom, but I do contract with my clients that I do bring in the body wisdom and I bring in the somatic and I invite them to feel their body and feel their sensations. And they're simply disconnected completely. They just rely on their brains and on their cognitive mind. They forget that they even can breathe. I had a coaching session with a client last week who's a senior person who's trying to build her executive presence with her peers. And she literally forgets to breathe. And when she forgets to breathe, then another aspect of her shows up in her, in the way, in how she's been. And it came down to the awareness that she simply forgets to breathe. As a human being, this goes against our nature. When I bring in this case with my clients, so we had deep breathing activity with visualization so that I could bring her awareness to what was happening in her body sensations as she was actually pitching. So there were body movements, there was breathing, and there was really focusing in the moment and bringing the awareness into the body. So she could see the link. The minute we finished that experience, she goes, now I can see the difference. I simply forget to breathe. And when I forget to breathe, she goes, obviously my tone of voice is more aggressive. I'm speaking very fast. And that's what that side shows up, which I no longer want to. It's when I bring in these awareness and experiences to the clients, they come up with their own solutions and realizations. In addition to self-care, for me, I spend a lot of time in nature. I also bring in that wisdom of nature and what can we learn from the wisdom of the seasons. And when we are aligned with the wisdom of the seasons, what shows up and what we can achieve. And when we're not aligned with the seasons and with the natural cycle of life, then we're off balance. And when we're off balance, lots of disease shows up. And when lots of disease shows up, we cannot perform. We simply cannot perform. We're not at our best. So that's what I try to bring in terms of awareness. And I bring also this in my supervision. When I'm supervising leaders or coaches, it's really to pause and reflect. And I kid you not, we're not hardwired to pause and reflect. Because as a human being, we simply think, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. It has a huge impact because we keep repeating the same patterns and we keep repeating. So that's where I love the space of supervision, because I create space for my clients to simply pause and remember that they are human beings. And that's when then we start looking at the challenge or the issue that they're facing so that they can realize and learn some self-care or some breathing or some feeling their sensations of the body or learning from the wisdom of Mother Nature.
I definitely have a lot more questions, but in the spirit of time, I want to also ask you some key pointers that you would have or something that the audience could take away, whether they are an employer or an employee. What are some of the main things that they should keep in mind when it comes to having a healthy work-life balance, to have a little bit of self-care and not forgetting to breathe, of course, just anything you could share?
The first thing that comes to mind is remember, and whoever is listening to this, remember that we are human beings. We're not human doings. I'm a convert from human doer into a human being, and I still do a lot. but I do a lot by remembering that I am a human being, which has been a huge game changer for me. I used to drive, and we all have feminine and masculine energy in our bodies. That's how we're designed. If you're just doing, you're only driving it's your masculine energy that drives you. When you're balancing doing and being, you're balancing basically your yin and yang, which is your feminine and masculine energy. And that's when you show up at your best. That's when you're balanced. So remember that you're human beings. And for leaders and for decision makers in organizations, remember when you put in those policies that you're dealing with human beings. And if you take care of a human being, that human being will take care of you and your customers. So there is absolutely a return on investment, but you need to take care of the human being who's driving that machine, who's driving that product, who's driving that sales. The other thing that I also want to is do challenge the status quo, because things are not supposed to. If as humanity we stayed as we were, we would have all vanished by now. So you have a voice and you are a unique human being in this world. So do challenge the status quo. If you're a decision maker and you're just following the policies coming from global and implementing them in the Middle East, I'm talking about the Middle East because that's where we're based, because that's the type of organizations that I deal with. Well, then you just go into copy paste what happens in the US or in Europe into the Middle East. Every region is different because people are different, traditions are different, ways in doing business are different, and human nature is changing on a daily basis. So do bring in your own unique touch by actually challenging and sharing your passion with people, and listen, invite people to tell you. I work a lot as, when we're developing coaching programs, be it one-to-one or teams or coaching training, when organizations go through employee engagement surveys. And of course, people are reluctant to share their insights or 360 feedback because they simply do not believe in them. So do challenge these policies. If you're no longer seeing the result of a 360, why wasting your time as an organization? Why forcing everybody? Because people are not telling you the truth. Well, find a different way to ask your employees to give you the truth of what's happening, what they want to see different, so that you become that employer of choice. Because once you treat people as human beings and you take care of them, they will do your hiring for you. You don't even have to spend money on recruitment agencies to attract talent. We know that there is Emiratization as a strategy, and organizations will receive fines if they don't hire Emiratis in the public sector. Well, then if you're looking after those Emiratis in the public sector, they're going to be bringing their friends and family into your organization. You don't even have to spend a penny. So these are some of the things that came to mind, and I hope that the audience will find them useful.
Absolutely. I love the human element that you mentioned. I think that's the most important one that we tend to forget, is that at the end of the day, we're all just human and we're not robots. We have emotions, we have needs and wants, and you have to find the right balance. I really love that. I guess my next question would be about your company, Kompass Consultancy. How do you see the industry of executive coaching evolving in the coming years, and what's next for you?
Definitely the executive coaching and coaching as an industry, executive coaching and team coaching is definitely evolving in our region as well and globally, because of course we're in the region, we started later in terms of community professional accreditation bodies and stuff. So we're behind what happens in the US and in Europe. And the industry is booming in terms of especially organizations seeing the need of no longer just sending their leaders and senior leaders on leadership development programs or team building programs, but now actually we're co-designing with them executive coaching programs, one-to-one, and team coaching for their senior leaders, because they're seeing now the benefit of having one-to-one and leadership team coaching for the team, so that they can strive to improving their results and bring in the wellness culture, bring in coaching culture. So we're no longer seeing organizations spending money just on the CEO, but we're working with organizations and a lot of government organizations, which is actually very inspiring for me, because that's my mission in life, is to develop nationals in whatever, be it the UAE, be it Saudi, be it Oman, in developing their senior leaders in understanding that coaching is the 21st century leadership development that they need to strive to developing. What we're also noticing in the trends of coaching and executive coaching is a lot of organizations now, again, government, semi-government, and multinationals are spending a lot of money developing their managers and leaders as coaches. So not just as coaches to become accredited coaches, that's another program that we offer, but also developing their managers and leaders in having coaching skills, having a manager as a coach, using coaching skills in how they're managing their people and their teams and their career and their performance, in addition to high potential programs where we're working with organizations to develop those top talent or high performers in terms of helping them into transition for the next position. So I see the field really evolving and a lot more maturity now than we had, let's say, 5 years ago or 10 years ago when we launched the business. It was like a VVIP treatment, but now we're seeing organization across the board talking about coaching and wanting to understand how can coaching support their leaders. So there are lots of education sessions that we run with the CEOs or the DGs to explain to them the benefits of bringing coaching to their organization or coaching training for their managers and leaders, and also building in-house accredited executive coaches. And that's what we strive to building. And for the last 5 years, that's what we've been heavily developing, mainly Emiratis and Saudis, in terms of becoming in-house executive coaches as an internal tool to actually coach their colleagues internally and not just bring in executive coaches externally. So yeah, that's why we train people all the time to become accredited executive coaches, because the industry is booming and there is more demand. Organizations are asking more for coaches who are accredited and certified, and not just for people who claim to be coaches without any qualification.
It seems like you have your work cut out for you, a lot of exciting things that you're working on. So we'll definitely be keeping, in touch with what you're up to. So Leila, thank you so much for answering all my questions and giving us so many wonderful insights on the importance of self-care and remembering that we are all human and to just take a moment to take a breath. We've actually come to the segment of our show where we're going to play a little game, which is called Rapid Fire Questions. So I'm just going to ask you a question and you just need to name the first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready to play?
Oh, let's play. I love playing.
Awesome. Okay, so Leila, when do you feel the most productive?
In the morning.
What is the one thing that you go back to in times of stress?
Going out for a walk.
What is the first thing that you notice about someone when you meet them?
The way they engage with me.
Okay. Can you describe yourself in 3 words?
Dreamcatcher, passionate, energetic.
Okay, well, thank you so much for playing along. Just a really quick, fun game. And just moving on to the next segment, which is actually one of our favorite segments. It's the green pill moment. So Leila, the question I'd like to ask you is, could you share an inspiring or life-changing experience that you have gone through, which was your own green pill moment?
You're taking me back about 6 or 7 years ago. When I was driving actually from Dubai to Abu Dhabi, I was going for work to coach some clients and I was listening to a podcast. It was about team coaching. And I loved that podcast. And there were some references at the end, at the end of every podcast, the references about the speaker. And I go, oh, I'm really intrigued about this speaker. When I came back in the evening, I sat down with a cup of tea and I actually re-listened to that podcast because I wanted to take notes. And I went to check those references. And little did I know that one of the references was the actual executive coaching training company that I am now a partner in the region about. So I looked them up and I go, oh, I love their programs and I love what they do, but I've never heard of them. So immediately I went into their map to see whether they had presence in the region. And I didn't. And I go, okay, well, you know what? Let me just email them. So I emailed them, introducing myself, introducing Kompass. And I said, I'd love to have a chat because I love your programs. We've got similar values in terms of when I read their website and stuff. And I wanted to have a chat. So I had the chat with the CEO, who's now a very good friend of mine, because I said, I'd love to explore partnership opportunities with you. So I become your partner here in the region. And just fast forward that's exactly what happened 5 years ago. I became the partner, and this year, actually next month, we're celebrating 5 years of partnership. So I became their partner in the Middle East, offering all their coaching, ICF accredited coaching programs. It's one of the top executive coaching training companies in the world. And I'm super proud of the step that I have taken to actually take initiative dream big. As I told you, I am a dream catcher. And I thought, what am I wasting? I'm just going to reach out. If they say yes, it's yes. Let's explore partnership. If they say no, at least I would have tried. And that's what changed my life completely and our business, because now I have two businesses instead of one. And that's the arm of the coaching training for all the executive and team coaching training that we offer, part of Kompass. And it was just taking initiative and daring actually to ask for what I wanted. And then the response was very, very, because the values were aligned, our business model was aligned, and we just were aligned as human beings. That was my green pill moment.
I love that. It was almost like fate brought you together. I mean, what a coincidence. That's such a lovely story. Honestly, it is. It's a great story.
And I actually sent afterwards, after when I became a partner, I sent an email to the host of the podcast. And I said, thank you very much, because listening to your podcast led me to becoming a partner of this awesome global coaching company. So that's how it happened. That's how I became the partner. It's just I dared following my dreams and dreaming big. And then if it's yes, it's yes. If it's no, because I always think positive. That's how I dared approaching that opportunity. And this year we're celebrating 5 years, and we've trained more than 300 coaches in the region in the last 5 years.
That's amazing. I think that's everything that a podcast host could hope for, is that you actually create some sort of impact, to bring some sort of good. So maybe, hopefully, somebody listening to this will connect with you down the line. Who knows?
You're providing an amazing platform for, again, human beings, like-minded people to connect. That's the whole point. I buy product at the back of listening to podcasts. I sign up to journals and magazines. I connect with people, because it's not like just listening to music. It's information and, knowledge sharing. That's the whole point for me.
Absolutely. And I myself have actually gone and bought products from people that I've hosted on the podcast, because I genuinely started to, I really believed in their product. I really believed in the goodness that they wanted to come from it. And it's inspiring. And that's all we can hope for, that everybody who does tune in and listen in is getting, one, obviously an educational aspect out of it, but also that it leaves them with something to ponder over afterwards.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with all of us. And I'm so grateful, to continue to meet people like you through the podcast. Your insights were really, really wonderful. I hope that everything that you have planned goes according to plan, but with your mindset, I'm sure that that's going to happen anyway. And just before we say goodbye, could you just share where maybe we could follow you on social media? Are you on LinkedIn?
Yeah. So first, thank you so much for having me on your show, Shireen. I love the metaphor of the green pill. Because I use creativity, I really connected with that. So I love that. And continue doing the great work that you're doing, and having the guests that you're bringing, which is so diverse. I really like that about your podcast. And for people to connect with me, I'm definitely on LinkedIn, and people can connect with me by email as well. But on social media, that's where they can find me, Leila Rezaiguia, and then on Instagram as well. So these are the two platforms where I'm active. And I look forward to connecting with some of the audience. If they need any insights or any coaching related or supervision related or coaching training, they know where to find me.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely include the links in the show notes, so it'll be very easy to find you and connect with you. Once again, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to have you on today. And Ramadan Kareem to you as well, and wish you a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely day. Thanks again for having me. Bye for now.
If you enjoy our conversations, please like and subscribe. See you next Wednesday.